What's up, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. Much appreciated. Hey, the Tobin and Leroy Show now streaming live on YouTube. Go check out the WQAM YouTube page. We're streaming every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll still be putting the best of clips up there. Still streaming live on Twitch, too, for all our Twitchers out there who are staying true. You guys have always gotten the 4 hours, but if you want to stay on the same platform as the clips now, boom, it's right there for you. Check us on out. Heat lost last night to the Chicago Bulls. The final score 113 to 103. Really got away from them. A typical third quarter game. Miami looked like they were going in a pretty good direction at halftime, as they were getting some turnovers going. Bam, and that dunk into Bam lob alley-oop. I was like, all right, maybe things are starting to get going. And you were coming into this thing with a pretty shorthanded night. You knew you were going to face some adversity. You were out three starters, Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry, and then the unfortunate bomb drops that Jimmy Butler is going to miss another game. And this time, stomach bug, gastrointestinal illness. And I just got to say to that, who is letting this dude eat crickets in Mexico? Like, of all the things, the athletes, the type of care they put into their body, personal chefs working around the clock to get their body right. Jimmy Butler travels with a fleet of chefs and trainers and people in his whole inner circle. Who allowed the cricket to be something that he eats? And why did this cricket curse this game? And Jimmy Butler, who going into a season is going to miss, on the good end, 15 games, more likely in the near 20-ish, maybe over 20 games. He misses a lot of games in the regular season. And you put up with it just because come playoff time, the dude gives his all. He basically empties the tank. He plays as physical as all hell. So that's the give and take with Jimmy Butler. It's a little bit, he plays a brooding style. He gets to the free throw line a lot. Any kind of nagging injury, knee injury, ankle injury, back injury, all that stuff. That's going to come with the territory. On top of that, you don't want a sneak attack by some exotic food over the border, and all of a sudden he's got tummy trouble waking up from his pregame nap. So that was probably already a bad omen going into the night that crickets had cursed this game. The Heat had just gotten over 500, and you're taking on the Chicago Bulls team that had already beaten you on opening night. DeMar DeRozan absolutely cooking Miami in the second half of that game. Remember, Jimmy had a boatload of free throws in that game. And this one is particularly disappointing, not from the standpoint of, look, winning a game without three starters and your backup point guard. The Heat essentially had no point guard in this game. On most nights, it's cute that the Heat say we have enough. On most nights, you would say, you know what, that's a lot of adversity that you got to overcome. Bam and Tyler, they're playing with Vic, who's getting his first start. He's still working his way back. And this Heat bench has been no first prize this year, so now you're already a thin roster, basically, and you're thinning it out even more. But then on top of that, you have the Bulls who are coming in, and I think this is probably what makes last night more disappointing, because if you look at the names, like fully up and down the roster, the Bulls came in with a better roster last night, and there were a lot of pressure facing them. Billy Donovan was being asked a lot of tough questions pregame. There was an article dropped by Shams in The Athletic before the game about the chemistry between DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, and LaVine not seeing eye to eye, and that he's had one-on-one meetings with DeRozan, and that teams are monitoring what the Bulls' situation is. There's reports coming out that a lot of the players in the Bulls' locker room are calling out Zach LaVine the last game. And so that, I think, is the disappointing thing about not being able to keep it going last night. When you come into it and you're like, hey, Kyle, start of the day, questionable. He's in the middle of the day, ruled out. Then Jimmy's got an intestinal problem. He's ruled out. You're like, that's a lot. But this Bulls team, is going through a lot, maybe you can kind of catch a team that's in disarray and you jump on them in a pretty good way. But it just kind of all falls apart. Like the Heat got their ass kicked 2016 style last night. I mean, if you're not a Heato, if you haven't been through some Heat years, if you were just a big three bandwagon jumper and you don't know the names Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan, I mean, like Heat killers through and through, especially Vooch. I mean, Vooch is like, he's an OG Heat killer. Like from the time he crawled into the league, he was a Heat killer. I mean, every one of these Orlando games, it felt like the guy was putting up like 40 and 20. He was putting up wilt numbers against the Heat. And so last night we got a little taste of our old friend Vucevic, who was just cooking from everywhere. You know, I was trying to hear on the broadcast last night. What is he? I think he's like third or fourth all time in double doubles against the Heat. So yeah, super disappointing that you weren't able to take advantage of a team in Chicago that's going through some turmoil right now. And Goran, man, I mean, what can I say about this dude? I miss him so much. I really do. I just, he walks around that building and it's just a delight. You know, everybody's so happy to see him. He says hello to everybody. And I'm talking like from the security guards to the PR staff, to the marketing staff, to the hoop troop, to everybody loves Gogi. I miss him, dude. I miss him so much. I really want him. If the Bulls do have some fire sale, they got to find a way to get Goran Dragic back on the Heat. I'm telling you, maybe Vucevic too. But maybe a package deal. Vucevic and Goran together. And Bam and Vuce, you just figure it out, dude. I don't know what they got to do, but the disappointing thing about yesterday is not necessarily that you lost to a Bulls team. That you look at it and you're like, oh, this team has a lot of talent, a lot of bucket getters on this team. Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic. They spent a lot on this core. They don't have Lonzo Ball. Alex Caruso, very good player, but they have been super disappointing. So it's disappointing that you couldn't hop on them and take advantage of a situation that's not going great. But like, no Jimmy last night. Didn't have a point guard last night. No Kyle. No Gabe. Kyle's sitting there wearing the Messi jersey. He's happy to see his boy DeMar DeRozan. Victor Oladipo shows like there's still this offensive rust that he has. You know, there were I thought that he got a lot of good looks yesterday. I thought that they were moving the ball well. I didn't think there were a ton of offensive issues. It was just a matter of the execution. And it was pretty good for the fact of not having a point guard. But, Strus continues to be in a slump. He's getting beat like a drum on defense. Tyler, they're blowing right past him. You just got, how many good defense you got? You got Bam, you got Haywood Highsmith yesterday. And it's like those guys were kind of giving it to you on both ends. But everybody else, you're kind of mixing the bag. So I don't know. I don't think this is one of those games where, Pat Riley looks on and is like, this is the game that we make a move. But we talked about this in the video beforehand where it was like, you look at the schedule and you see this homestand ahead and you're like, Bulls, Pacers, Minnesota, LA. And you're like, hey, not cakewalk games, not what that road trip was, but like, all right, if you're going to be serious about getting it going, like you need to have a good homestand. You need to take advantage of these opportunities. And the last homestand was garbage. And, I don't know what it is about the Heats. It's not like they were some, road warrior team last good trip notwithstanding against a bunch of bad teams. But, that they got to get that place back to being, a real home court advantage. Spo talked about that before the game yesterday. And, it's disappointing that they're coming in there and it's becoming, you used to be the old South Beach flu. You used to take advantage of your games being in Miami. And then, yesterday just, wasn't the case. Maybe the Bulls are just filled with too many vets who don't want to go party. They're all just sitting at home playing Twitch. Goran's just going to some bistro in Wynwood or something like that. I don't know. But the one thing I'll come out with yesterday that was a little bit annoying, and I don't really get it, is I watch a game like yesterday, and I see all the names on the floor, and they're flying Jamal Cain up from Sioux Falls because they need some run from some people, and he didn't play much. But I'm looking at a game, and I'm looking at like the injuries that have piled on, and I just can't figure out why we're not figuring out why, with the issues this team has, which have been shooting and defense from time to time, why Nikola Jovic has been cast aside and is not getting playing time instead of working some stuff out. And this happened during the pandemic with Precious Achiuwa too. I don't know why we are putting more emphasis on guys who are undrafted and guys who are like the hidden gems and are on two-way contracts than you are on your own first-round picks. I don't understand that. And it particularly has to do with, the bigs and how they want their bigs to play, and it's a little bit more complex than I guess they're, these wing guys or these shooters are going to go out there and do things, but I don't understand it. I don't understand in a game like last night, how is it with 3 starters out and a key role guy out, how is Jovic not playing? Gets it in a little bit of token time at the end. How is Nikola Jovic not getting any time? Doesn't make sense. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, we've had a lot of injuries over this, and Jovic has played in the San Antonio game for 14 minutes. I think did he get the start in that one? He's gotten to start 7 games this year, but, he's not gotten like a real full, healthy game of like getting any kind of run. Before the San Antonio game, did not play, was inactive, did not play in 5 straight games. I believe he had a stint in Sioux Falls there at one point, where I know he wasn't like shooting great, but I just feel like if you're going to have this point of the year where a lot of guys are out, the idea that you're not going to use any of this time to develop a 19-year-old first-round pick, who I know you have come into it saying it's a project, he's got a long way to go, kid hasn't even graduated high school yet, cool. But you're talking about big guy, seemingly could stretch the floor, shooting's already been bad, defense, oh, okay, are you having a huge defensive hit if he's not out there? I don't know, dude. I see a lot of guys out there acting like turnstiles. Yeah, I guess you could say you're gonna lose some Haywood Highsmith time. Okay, Haywood had a great game yesterday. But you think about some of the other shooters that have been out there, some of the other guys that you've been putting out and been given a lot of time to work their way out of things. I don't know, man. I look at that and I think this seems like a lost opportunity to me, that they're not trying to let this kid get his feet wet and get some real game action. And I think that it may be tough to show. How does he show that in practice? They don't practice. They don't shoot around. So what is he supposed to do? Sit there in walkthroughs? Like, when is he supposed to impress? I don't know. Like, when does Jovic have time to show the coaching staff he really gets it? And if you're benching him for 5 straight games and essentially benching him 6 out of 7 games, when you're shorthanded and you don't have any of these guys around, you're flying guys up from South Dakota. Well, okay, you're telling me he can do nothing. This guy can't bring you. You're telling me he's with the way this team has been playing this year, up and down, very inconsistent. You're telling me this kid is such a liability that he can't give you nothing in 20 minutes of action. I find that crazy. So, in a situation, and when everybody's back, we could have a different story for a different day. But you're talking about, you drafted a 19-year-old. Everybody's excited about this European prospect. A lot of buzz around him, but has a lot to learn. But you can see when he plays, has some very good instincts with passing the ball, moves the ball around. It's not like he's a ball hog. Sure, sometimes looks really lost on defense. Dude, there's a lot of people on this team you could say that about. There's a lot of things they're gimmicking around for guys who are bad defenders on this team. And I'm not talking about all the games. I'm just saying in a game like last night, you're telling that's a DNP last night. That's a DNP, basically. 1 minute at the end of the game. Been DNPing him for 5 straight games. Gotten to play 3 games out of the Heat's last, what is it, dozen, something like that. I'm looking at Basketball Reference. I'm trying to eyeball it right now. Yeah, last 11, 12 games. He's played 3 games. He's gotten more than 10 minutes once. I don't know, man. I just feel like at this point of the year, you should have been, use this time. Don't just put him on ice and let's just forget about it. Seems silly to me.